Let me show you guys how to change out the inverter coolant in a Toyota Prius. Make your way towards the driver's side. You're going to find your coolant reservoir there for the inverter. On the passenger side is going to be for your engine. This is your inverter coolant reservoir. That's the fluid we're going to be changing out today. Remove the reservoir cap. That will allow it to drain faster. Next, you want to raise the vehicle up. If you have a floor jack at home, you can do this as well with some floor jack and some jack stand. You don't need to get it all the way up. It makes it easier if you have a lift. Now, right underneath the transmission, you're going to find a drain plug. It looks like it's for the transmission fluid, but really that's for the inverter coolant. As you can see, there's a splash shield underneath, held up with a couple push pins. So what you want to do is get all the push pins out. You don't need to get all of them completely out, but at least the majority of them towards the back side. And by removing them, that will allow you to hang the shield just far enough where you can get a drain bucket underneath to collect the old coolant coming out. That's what I'm doing right now, removing as much push pins as I can. Like I said, you don't need to remove the ones in the front. You just want the splash shield to sag down far enough. Here's the coolant drain plug right here. And with a 10mm hex socket, make sure it's a 10mm, you don't want to round it off. Go ahead and insert that in there. I would recommend you using a 1/2-inch breaker bar. I wouldn't try to break this thing loose with a 3/8 or a 1/4-inch ratchet. I would use a 1/2 inch. You'll get a better leverage that way. Twist it off by hand. And I already have a drain bucket underneath to collect the old coolant coming out. And by removing the reservoir cap like we did in the first step earlier, it allows it to drain faster. If I would have left the cap on, it would have trickled down and take some time to drain out. But with the cap removed, it gives it a nice flow. Now you just watch it drain. And you want to let it all come out. Just wait till it stops dripping and trickling out. And then you can go ahead and put your drain plug back. And of course, if you're going to do this, make sure you get a new washer. You know, like any other typical drain plug, get a new washer in there. Start it by hand. You don't want to start it with an impact gun or electric impact gun at all. Start it by hand and then finish it off with your 1/2 inch. I'm going to tighten it up with my 1/2 inch ratchet. Spray it off with some brake clean. No, that is not me urinating on there, even though it looks like it. Now I'm just putting the push pins back. Now you see how the reservoir is completely empty. Before I ready on the car or start the car, I'm going to fill the reservoir up completely. Now some is going to make its way through the system. I'm going to make sure the reservoir is filled completely because the minute you start the car, the inverter coolant pump is just going to suck it all up. So you want to make sure you have as much in there as you can before you're ready on the car. Now that I got it filled up all the way, I'm going to go ahead and go inside the car. If you're doing this by yourself, it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and ready on the car, but I'm going to make sure I have the coolant nearby because as soon as I'm ready on the car, I'm going to want to run outside and quickly top off that bottle before the inverter coolant pump sucks it all up. As you can see, I already pulled most of the coolant that we topped off in the reservoir. So quickly grab your bottle and quickly add some in there. Now the car is running now. The inverter coolant pump is sucking up all the coolant from the reservoir. So you want to make sure you top it off as it's pulling the coolant through. This is just where you want to take your time and just, it's going to take a while for it to bleed out. Not as long as the engine coolant, but the inverter probably takes about a good 5 minutes or so of running before it gets all the air out. It's not a large system. It's not going through the heater core inside the dash or anything like that. It's just an inverter coolant pump and a couple hoses. Now, as the car is running, I'm gonna keep topping it off as it bleeds out by itself. There is no bleeder screw or anything that you're gonna have to loosen up. Just leave the car running and just keep your eye on the coolant reservoir level, and you guys should be good. So now I'm just gonna monitor it. It's not something you want to do and turn your back on. You want to make sure you're there in front, keeping your eye on it. Make sure the level doesn't seep below the minimum line. Otherwise, you're going to get more air in the system. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and spray it off with some brake clean, all the excess coolant that I spilled. Brake clean does a good job of getting it off. And even after I spray it with brake clean, I'm going to spray it down with some shop air. Make sure on top of that transmission is nice and dry. Because you want to do a clean job, guys. You don't want to leave it all messy and look like you just worked on it. And after a while, the coolant reservoir is going to, the coolant that you spill is going to smell and burn up. See, as you can see, it kind of dropped a little bit. So I'm going to top it off some more. Top it off right till it gets above the full mark. And that's pretty much all there is to it, guys, in changing out the inverter coolant. And for the engine, it's pretty much the same step, guys. Same step you saw in this procedure: drain and then fill as the engine is running. Just keep an eye on the level. And if you guys found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.